Welcome back to Cyberspace. I'm your host, Leslie Poston, and today we're digging deep into a topic that matters deeply to the modern workplace: psychological safety. In this episode, we'll explore how creating an environment where employees feel secure to take risks and be themselves not only enhances well-being but also dramatically boosts productivity and a company's bottom line. We'll journey through the foundations of psychological safety, examine its profound impact on productivity, and confront the harsh realities of workplace toxicity. Along the way, we'll share real-world examples, practical strategies, and compelling research that demonstrates why psychological safety isn't just a feel-good concept. It's a critical business strategy for the 21st century. So whether you're a CEO, a team leader, or an employee looking to understand and improve your work environment, this episode is for you. Let's unlock the power of psychological safety together. Let's start by demystifying psychological safety. This term, popularized by Harvard Business School professor Amy Edmondson, refers to a shared belief that a team is safe for interpersonal risk-taking. In other words, it's an environment where people feel comfortable being themselves, speaking up, sharing ideas, and even making mistakes without fear of ridicule or punishment. But why is this concept so essential in today's workplace? Well, in an era of rapid technological change and global competition, innovation is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. And innovation thrives in environments where people feel safe to express their thoughts, challenge the status quo, and experiment with new ideas. Research backs this up. In addition to Edmondson's groundbreaking 1999 paper on psychological safety, many peer-reviewed studies since have confirmed that psychological safety is positively related to learning behavior in work teams. This means that in psychologically safe environments, employees are more likely to seek feedback, discuss errors, and experiment with different work methods, all behaviors that drive innovation and improvement. Psychological safety isn't just about feeling good, it's about performing well. Google's Project Aristotle, a 2-year study on team performance, identified psychological safety as the most important factor in high-performing teams. The study found that teams with high psychological safety were much more likely to harness the power of diverse ideas from their members, stay on schedule, and achieve their goals. But what does psychological safety look like in practice? Some key indicators include open communication, where team members feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and ideas without fear of judgment. Constructive conflict. Disagreements are seen as opportunities for growth rather than personal attacks. Risk-taking. Employees feel empowered to take calculated risks and try new approaches. Learning from failure. Mistakes are viewed as learning opportunities rather than reasons for punishment. And inclusive decision-making. All team members feel their voices are heard and valued in the decision-making process. It's important to note that psychological safety isn't about being nice or lowering performance standards. In fact, it's quite the opposite. As Edmondson points out in her book, The Fearless Organization, psychological safety is about creating a climate of respect, trust, and openness that allows for candid feedback, constructive criticism, and high standards. Creating this kind of environment is not always easy. It requires conscious effort from leaders and team members alike. But as we'll find throughout this episode, the benefits, both for individual well-being and organizational success, make psychological safety a worthwhile investment. Now that we've laid the groundwork, let's get into how psychological safety translates into tangible productivity gains. It might seem counterintuitive that feeling safe could lead to better performance, but the research is clear. Psychological safety is a key driver of productivity. Let's start with some numbers. A 2017 Gallup report found that highly engaged teams show 21% greater profitability. And guess what is at the core of employee engagement? You got it, psychological safety. When employees feel safe to express themselves, they're more likely to be engaged in their work. This leads to increased productivity and profitability. How does this work? There are several mechanisms at play. Enhanced creativity and innovation. In psychologically safe environments, employees are more likely to share novel ideas. A study published in the Journal of Creative Behavior found a positive correlation between psychological safety and creative performance. This means more innovative solutions, improved processes, and potentially game-changing ideas for the company. Improved problem solving. When team members feel safe to speak up, problems are identified and addressed more quickly. One mid-2000s study found that 85% of employees have concerns about their workplace that they're too afraid to share. Imagine the efficiency gains if these concerns were voiced and addressed. Increased learning and skill development. Psychological safety fosters a growth mindset. Employees are more likely to ask questions, seek feedback, and learn from mistakes. This continuous learning translates directly into improved performance and productivity. Better collaboration. Teams with high psychological safety collaborate more effectively. They're more likely to share information, offer help, and leverage each other's strengths. One study in the Journal of Organizational Behavior found that psychological safety was positively related to knowledge sharing in teams. Reduced stress and reduced burnout. Feeling psychologically safe reduces workplace stress. A study in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health found that psychological safety was negatively associated with burnout. Less stressed employees are more focused, make fewer mistakes, and are generally more productive. Let's look at a real-world example. Pixar, the renowned animation studio, is famous for its psychologically safe environment. They have a process called brain trust, where filmmakers present their unfinished work to a group of peers for candid feedback. This process, rooted in psychological safety, has led to the creation of numerous blockbuster films and billions in revenue. Another example comes from Microsoft. When Satya Nadella took over as CEO in 2014, he focused on creating a culture of psychological safety and growth mindset. The result, Microsoft's stock price increased by over 500%, and they regained their position as one of the world's most valuable companies. But it's not just tech giants that benefit. A study of manufacturing plants found that those with higher levels of psychological safety had higher levels of productivity and lower accident rates. This shows that psychological safety can boost productivity across various industries and job types. It's also worth noting that psychological safety becomes even more critical in times of change or crisis. A recent study by McKinsey found that during the COVID-19 pandemic, companies with higher levels of psychological safety adapted more quickly to remote work and maintained higher levels of productivity. The bottom line, psychological safety isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a vital factor in driving productivity and ultimately business success. By creating an environment where employees feel safe to be themselves, speak up, and take risks, companies could unlock levels of productivity and innovation that they never thought possible. Now that we've explored the benefits of psychological safety, let's flip the coin and examine the dark side of workplace dynamics, toxicity. A toxic work environment is essentially the antithesis of psychological safety, and its costs, both human and financial, are staggering. Workplace toxicity can manifest in various forms: bullying bosses, backstabbing coworkers, unreasonable customers, or systemic issues like discrimination or harassment. Regardless of its source, toxicity creates an atmosphere of fear, stress, and disengagement that can cripple both individual and organizational performance. Let's break down the impact. Mental health. The toll of a toxic workplace on mental health is severe. Studies published in the Scandinavian Journal of Work, Environment, and Health found that employees in toxic work environments had a 59% higher risk of depression, as well as higher instances of illnesses. This not only affects the individual's well-being, but also leads to increased absenteeism and decreased productivity. Physical health. Workplace stress doesn't just affect the mind, it impacts the body too. Research published in the European Heart Journal found that people who work in toxic environments have a 25% higher risk of developing heart disease. The physical toll of toxicity translates directly into increased healthcare costs and lost productivity. Turnover. Toxic workplaces drive good employees away. A recent SHRM report found that 58% of employees who left their jobs due to workplace culture said their managers were the main reason they ultimately left. High turnover not only disrupts operations, but also incurs significant costs in terms of recruiting, hiring, and training new employees. Productivity. In toxic environments, employees spend more time navigating office politics and protecting themselves than doing their actual job. A study by Porath and Pearson found that 66% of employees said their performance declined due to workplace incivility, and 80% lost work time worrying about the incidents. Innovation. Remember how psychological safety fosters innovation? Well, toxicity does the opposite. When employees are afraid to speak up or take risks, potentially groundbreaking ideas never see the light of day. Company reputation. In the age of Glassdoor and social media, word about toxic workplaces spreads fast. This can damage a company's reputation, making it harder to attract top talent and even affecting customer perception. Let's put some numbers to these impacts. One SHRM report estimated that workplace toxicity cost U.S. employees $223 billion, with a B, in turnover alone for the previous 5 years. Another study by Sapala and Cameron found that workplace stress results in an estimated $125 billion to $190 billion in healthcare spending each year. But perhaps the most insidious cost of toxicity is its contagious nature. Research has shown that negative behaviors in the workplace can spread like a virus, creating a downward spiral that's hard to break. Take, for example, the case of Uber, circa 2017, a blog post by a former employee detailing a culture of sexual harassment and cutthroat competition sparked a firestorm that ultimately led to the ouster of CEO Travis Kalanick and a complete cultural overhaul. The financial impact? While hard to quantify exactly, Uber's valuation took a significant hit, and they lost market share to competitors during this tumultuous period. Another example is Wells Fargo's fake account scandal, which came to light in 2016. The toxic sales culture that pressured employees to open fraudulent accounts not only resulted in a $3 billion fine, but also severely damaged the bank's reputation and led to a loss of customers. These high-profile cases are just the tip of the iceberg. In workplaces across the world, toxicity silently erodes productivity, stifles innovation, and drives away talent every day. The takeaway is clear. Toxicity in the workplace is not just an HR issue, it's a serious threat to a company's bottom line. As we'll discuss later this episode, addressing toxicity and fostering psychological safety isn't just the right thing to do, it's a critical business imperative. Now that we've explored both the benefits of psychological safety and the cost of toxicity, let's look at some real-world examples of companies that have successfully fostered psychological safety and discuss strategies that any organization can implement to improve their workplace culture. Let's start with Etsy, the e-commerce platform focused on handmade and vintage items. In 2016, Etsy implemented a company-wide initiative called Etsy School to foster psychological safety. This program encouraged employees to teach classes on any topic they're passionate about, whether work-related or not. This initiative not only improved employee engagement, but also led to innovative cross-pollination between departments for better ideas. Another great example is Bridgewater Associates, the world's largest hedge fund. They've implemented a culture of radical transparency, where all meetings are recorded and employees are encouraged to challenge each other's ideas, regardless of hierarchy. While this approach might seem intense, it has created an environment of trust and openness that has contributed to the firm's outstanding performance. So how can organizations start building psychological safety? Here's some practical strategies. Leading by example. Leaders must model the behaviors they want to see. This means admitting mistakes, asking for feedback, and showing vulnerability. When leaders do this, it signals to everyone that it's safe to do the same. Encourage questioning. Create opportunities for employees to ask questions and challenge assumptions. This could be through regular Q&A sessions with leadership or by implementing a no stupid questions policy in all meetings. Reframe failure. Instead of punishing failure, treat it as a learning opportunity. Implement practices like blameless postmortems after projects to focus on lessons learned rather than assigning blame. Promote inclusivity. Ensure that all voices are heard and valued. This might involve implementing structured turn-taking in meetings or actively soliciting input outside of meetings from your quieter team members. Provide psychological safety training. Offer workshops or training sessions on psychological safety, effective communication, and giving and receiving feedback. Measure and monitor. Regularly assess levels of psychological safety through surveys or other feedback mechanisms. This can allow you to track progress and identify areas for improvement. Address toxicity promptly. When instances of toxic behavior occur, address them immediately and decisively. This shows that such behavior is not tolerated and helps maintain a psychologically safe environment. Implement a continuous feedback system. Rather than relying solely on annual reviews, create a culture of ongoing constructive feedback. This normalizes the giving and receiving of feedback, making it less threatening. Create spaces for connection. Foster informal interactions between employees. This could be through team-building activities, mentorship programs, or even just creating comfortable break areas. Align rewards and recognition. Ensure that your reward systems reinforce psychologically safe behaviors. Recognize and reward employees who speak up, collaborate effectively, and help others learn from mistakes. Remember, building psychological safety is an ongoing process, not a one-time fix. It requires consistent effort and reinforcement at all levels of the organization. But as we've seen from the research and real-world examples, the payoff in terms of increased productivity, innovation, and overall business success can make it well worth the investment. We've looked deeply into the concept of psychological safety. However, we also must acknowledge that not all employees experience the workplace in the same way. Disabled, neurodivergent, Black, Indigenous, people of color, and LGBTQ+ employees often face additional challenges that can significantly impact their sense of psychological safety. We'll look at these unique challenges and discuss strategies to create a truly inclusive environment that benefits both employees and the company as a whole. Research consistently shows that marginalized groups experience higher levels of workplace stress and lower levels of psychological safety. A study by McKinsey found that BIPOC employees were more likely to feel uncomfortable speaking up about racial inequalities at work. Similarly, a recent study by the UCLA Williams Institute revealed that 46% of LGBTQ+ workers remain closeted at work, often due to fears of discrimination or negative career impact. For disabled employees, the challenges can be even more pronounced. A study by the Center for Talent Innovation found that 30% of professional employees have a disability, but only 39% of those disclose their disability to their managers. This reluctance to disclose often stems from fear of bias or negative career consequences. These statistics highlight a sobering reality. For many marginalized employees, the workplace is not yet a psychologically safe environment. This lack of safety doesn't just affect individual well-being, it also represents a significant loss for companies in terms of diverse perspectives, creativity, and talent retention. So what can organizations do to address these challenges and create a more inclusive environment? Here are a few strategies. Implement targeted training. Provide specific training on cultural competence, disability awareness, neurodivergent communication, and LGBTQ+ inclusivity. This helps all employees understand and appreciate diverse perspectives. Create employee resource groups. ERGs provide a space for marginalized employees to connect, share experiences, and advocate for change within the organization. Ensure diverse representation in leadership. When marginalized employees see themselves represented in leadership positions, it can significantly boost their sense of belonging and psychological safety. Establish clear anti-discrimination policies. Having robust, well-communicated policies against discrimination and harassment is critical. More importantly, these policies must be consistently enforced. Provide accessible channels for reporting issues. Ensure that there are multiple accessible ways for employees to report concerns or incidents, including anonymous options. Foster allyship. Encourage and educate employees on how to be effective allies to their marginalized colleagues. Conduct regular climate surveys. These can help identify specific areas where marginalized employees may be experiencing lower levels of psychological safety. Offer flexible work arrangements. This can be particularly beneficial for disabled and neurodivergent employees or employees with any caregiving responsibility. Celebrate diversity. Regularly acknowledge and celebrate the diverse backgrounds and experiences of your workforce. By implementing these strategies, companies can create a more psychologically safe environment for all employees. But the benefits go beyond just doing the right thing. They directly impact your bottom line. Diverse teams, when operating in a psychologically safe environment, are more innovative and perform better. A Boston Consulting Group study found that companies with above-average diversity on their management teams reported innovation revenue 19 percentage points higher than companies with below-average leadership diversity. In an era where top talent is increasingly scarce, creating an inclusive environment is a key competitive advantage. One Glassdoor survey found that 76% of job seekers consider workplace diversity an important factor when considering employment opportunities. In essence, by ensuring psychological safety for marginalized employees, companies aren't just fostering a more equitable workplace, they're unlocking a wealth of diverse perspectives, boosting innovation, and positioning themselves as employers of choice in a competitive market. As we wrap up our exploration of psychological safety, let's look back to where it matters most for many businesses, the bottom line. We've discussed the productivity gains, the innovation boost, and the cost of toxicity, but let's tie it all together and look at psychological safety as a financial strategy and an investment. That same 2017 Gallup report found that businesses with engaged employees, a key outcome of psychological safety, not only saw 21% higher profitability, they also experienced 41% lower absenteeism and 59% lower turnover. When you consider that the cost of replacing an employee can range from 50% to 200% of their salary, the financial implications become clear. In fact, companies known for their psychologically safe cultures often see benefits in the stock market. For example, companies consistently ranked as best places to work tend to outperform the S&P 500. A study by Glassdoor found that a portfolio of public companies with high employee satisfaction outperformed the overall market by 135% from 2009 to 2019. Investing in psychological safety can also serve as a powerful risk management strategy. In an era where a single TikTok about toxic workplace culture can go viral and damage a company's reputation, fostering a positive work environment is more critical than ever. As we move into an increasingly knowledge-based economy, the value of a company is increasingly tied to its human capital. Creating an environment where this human capital can thrive is not just good practice, it's a competitive necessity. The message is clear. Psychological safety isn't just about making employees feel good. It's a fundamental business strategy that drives your financial performance. By investing in creating psychologically safe workplaces, companies aren't just doing right by their employees, they're setting themselves up for long-term success and profitability. As we conclude this episode of PsyberSpace, I hope you've gained a new appreciation for the power of psychological safety in the workplace. From boosting productivity and fostering innovation to mitigating the costly effects of toxicity, psychological safety is a critical factor in modern business success. Remember, creating a psychologically safe environment is an ongoing journey, not a destination. It requires consistent effort, leadership commitment, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. But as we've seen, the rewards, both human and financial, make it a journey well worth taking. Some housekeeping. Voting is open for Best Psychology Podcast, and we're in the running. You can vote in the link in the show notes until October 1st. We also have a new Patreon. It's intended to be a place to build community around this podcast. You can find it at patreon.com/cyberspace. Thank you again for joining me on PsyberSpace. I'm your host, Leslie Poston. Until next time, stay curious.